Finding a beautiful young woman dead in your son's apartment is a sight no father ever expects to see. But this horrific find is just the beginning of a nightmare where the truth is far stranger than fiction. I'm your host, Carlos Greer, and this is the New York Post Reports Off the Record. This story is over 10 years in the making. And what's interesting about this case is the double homicide. How someone can be so evil and sinister to kill twice in the same night.
Sam Hare is a handsome 26-year-old Army veteran. On May 22nd, Sam was supposed to spend the weekend with his family. Saturday comes and his family has not heard from him. Hours go by, they are trying to call him. The calls are not going through to his phone. So his father had a key to his new apartment and he figures, all right, I'll just go over and check on him.
What he finds is a father's worst nightmare. A young woman is lying face down on Sam's bed with gunshot wounds to the head. Some of her clothes had been ripped off, and an ominous message was scrawled on the back of her sweatshirt. Steve immediately dials 911.
Steve finds the body of Julie Kibayushi. Julie is a 23-year-old gifted student at Orange Coast College. She had met Sam in an anthropology class.
Police find text messages between Sam and Julie asking her to come over, and the case seemed pretty cut and dry. It appears that Sam had raped and killed Julie and was now on the run.
His father doesn't think that Sam is responsible, but Sam is still missing. Steve starts monitoring his son's bank accounts, and he notices some activity in Long Beach. He starts calling friends. Through one of those friends, he was given the number of Daniel Wozniak.
Police apprehend Daniel Wozniak. They believe he's an accessory to the murder by helping Sam hide. But while in custody, the walls start caving in.
Daniel makes a phone call to Rachel Buffett. Rachel is Daniel's fiance. She's a former Disney princess. Daniel starts to tell her that he gave a backpack of evidence to his brother. And she cuts him off and she tells him, this phone call is being recorded and I'm supposed to talk to authorities right after we speak. Daniel decides after the phone call to tell the police, I'm crazy and I killed Julie and I killed Sam. Daniel was desperate for money. He wanted to pull off this wedding in a couple of days to please his new bride and go on this fantasy honeymoon together, and he simply did not have the funds to pull it off. At the time, Sam had $60,000 in savings socked away. Daniel told investigators he killed Julie to cover his own tracks. He had created this elaborate story that he wanted to frame Sam as having killed Julie and fled. Daniel is charged with murder. After that, his fiancée, Rachel Buffett, was also charged with accessory to the murders. Her lawyers say that she had no idea what kind of man Daniel was. She was not aware of the crimes, and that he had flipped the story on her as well. Daniel's lawyers claim that she was the one who was manipulating him because she was desperate for that fairy tale ending.
And in another surprising layer to this story, it is actually Sam's father who broke the case wide open. Sam Hare was much more than a victim. He was a decorated combat veteran in the U.S. Army and was going to college to get his degree. I have Sam's father, Steve, here with me on the line. So Steve, you're the one that first found Julie's body in Sam's apartment. Was there ever a moment you considered that maybe Sam had done this?
I knew very quickly that Sam had nothing to do with it because Sam would never do something like that.
You were extremely instrumental in the police's investigation. How did you go about trying to prove Sam's innocence?
I got a lot of help from Sam's friends. I couldn't have done anything without their help. And those friends gave me numbers of more friends. And then I called all those numbers. One of those people was Dan Wozniak. He said, Sam told me he was having family problems. And as soon as Dan Wozniak told me Sam had told him he was having family problems, I knew Wozniak was lying. That, coupled with all the transactions from the bank taken out of Long Beach, and the only person's number I had who had a Long Beach prefix was Dan Wozniak. I told the police about Wozniak's lies, and they zoomed in on him and had him arrested the next day.
Now, Steve, let's talk about Dan's fiancee, Rachel Buffett. So she admitted that Dan owed a friend, Chris Williams, $400, and she claims he asked Sam for help paying his debt. But Rachel maintains Sam is alive and present when Dan pays back Chris. So what really caught my attention is that she is charged with a crime only much later.
I want to give one fact that convinces me Rachel was involved in the murders. When the police asked her, what did Dan do with the money? She said he could have given it to Chris, or he could have given it to Sam. Rachel Buffett was there when Dan Wozniak gave money to Chris Williams. She even admits to that. Why did Rachel Buffett tell the police he could have given the money to Sam when she knew he had given the money to Chris? That only reinforces the fact that she wanted to make it look like Sam was part of the murder. She wanted to lay the blame on Sam. That's an evil person right there. They eventually charge her for accessory after the fact. In California, the highest penalty is 3 years. And most other states had at least 10 years. I just wish to this day that the DA's office would have charged her with murder.
Well, why didn't they charge her with murder?
District Attorney's Office felt that they didn't have enough evidence to get a murder conviction for her.
There is one more conviction handed to Daniel's brother, Tim Wozniak. Tim pleads guilty to being an accessory after the fact for hiding Daniel's backpack full of evidence, which includes shell casings from Julie's murder, Sam's wallet, Sam's ID, Sam's checkbook, and Sam's bloody clothes. He testifies against his brother as a part of a plea agreement, and while the evidence against Daniel is overwhelming, it's up to a jury to decide his fate. After 6 years of hearings, Daniel Wozniak is found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder, and in September of 2016, he is sentenced to the death penalty. Steve, I know it's been a long and emotional journey for you and your family. Do you think justice was served?
Wozniak murdered Sam, shot him in the head, dismembered my son's body parts, a lot of them, in a park so the animals can get to them. He killed Julie. He made it look like she was raped. Wozniak planned on blaming Sam for murdering Julie and then taking off. Therefore, the police would be looking for Sam and blame Sam for Julie's murder and destroy Sam's reputation. All because he can have a wonderful wedding. How do you think I feel about the death penalty? I want him dead. I've always been a proponent for the death penalty, but this, of course, reinforces that.
Wow, Steve, your perseverance for finding justice for your son is beyond admirable. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
You're welcome. I just feel anything I can get information out regarding Rachel and her involvement, because Rachel got off very light, and so did Tim. I want this to follow her and Tim Wozniak for the rest of their lives.
This story is unbelievably heartbreaking, and of course it makes you wonder, why would anyone go to such great lengths to ensure the perfect wedding day? Daniel claimed insanity. Honestly, that's the only explanation I can think of. I'm Carlos Greer, and this is the New York Post Reports Off the Record.